Everybody wants to know, what is 2013 going to be like? March of last year set the tone for what would be the warmest year on record. Magnolia trees in full bloom in the Twin Cities on March the 27th. This is what climate scientists were predicting for the year 2090, one of many black swan events. Minnesota has seen 4 1 in 1,000 year rainfalls just since 2004. Of course, we had Sandy last year, the worst drought in 60 years for the Plains states. We're seeing more of these, what meteorologists call black swan weather events, where you just kind of scratch your head and go, what was that? Almost 14,000 warm weather records, 70s and 80s, a taste of early June in mid-March. And March really did set the tone for what would be the warmest year on record for the United States.
Just when you thought there could not be more change going on in the world, magnetic north is moving. It has always moved, but not like this. It's just skipping along. It's on the move about 40 miles a year now along the polar cap toward Russia.
Australia is about to experience one of the most extensive heat waves on record, with large parts of the country to bake in 45-degree temperatures for more than a week. Weather records are being broken as eastern Australia bakes in extreme heat. Hobart hit an all-time high today of 41.8 degrees, and there are reports tonight of several homes destroyed by bushfires.
Wildfires raging out of control. At last report, 300,000 acres charred. These fires are actually showing up from space, from the International Space Station. Monday, the hottest day ever recorded nationwide across Australia. So hot that the meteorologists at the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia had to add a new color. That's 129.2 degrees. Good grief.
Good evening. At a time when so many people are still suffering, right now, tonight, more than 1 month after a monster storm hit a giant population center, today we learn some facts about how this Earth is changing and how fast. For starters, polar ice sheets in Greenland are melting at 5 times the pace of just a few years ago. New research concludes that Antarctica is melting. While it takes a lot of ice to melt to raise ocean levels, they say that is in fact happening, and they believe just an incremental recent rise of ocean levels made the damage worse when Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast and took so much away from us. The big question mark is the future, of course, and a new kind of normal for all those living along the water.
Look at what could happen to cities on the East Coast. This could be the impact of 5 feet of sea level rise. This is 25 feet, which some experts say could happen in just a few centuries. In Greenland, a record 97% of the ice sheet thawed this July, as shown here in red. Today, it is losing ice 5 times faster than in the early 1990s.
The faster speeds that we're seeing in Greenland are not going to slow down.
We have some breaking news coming into us. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, a magnitude 7.3 earthquake has struck off the eastern coast of Japan. A tsunami warning and advisory have been issued.
It went on for about 90 seconds, and the thing that stands out in my mind is the noise, the violent shaking. But in terms of the scene here in Tokyo, I hear cars moving behind me. It's now just after 6 o'clock on Friday evening here in Tokyo. People seem to be getting back to their lives, but obviously a good wake-up call.
The people of Darwin have been shaken by a strong tremor this morning. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck about 600 kilometres off the Northern Territory coast. The US Geological Survey says the epicentre was about 236 kilometres northwest of the Indonesian city of Saumlaki. It struck just before 4 a.m. at a depth of 155 kilometres. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Centre has no immediate tsunami warning.
It's a marine mystery. Beachcombers say these squid began washing up near Aptos on Sunday. Researchers with the Hopkins Marine Station at Stanford are trying to figure out why these Humboldt squid ventured out of their native waters in the Sea of Cortez near the Baja Peninsula. This isn't the first stranding. Researchers recorded smaller strandings over the past 2 months from Santa Cruz to Pacific Grove. Now they'll be examining the contents of their stomachs to see if they died from natural or unnatural causes.
The beaches of Santa Cruz County are littered with the carcasses of thousands of Humboldt squid. They've stranded themselves from Aptos to Watsonville, a span of 12 miles.
You just see them essentially killing themselves, and it's just really weird to see.
It happened yesterday during high tide. Some people actually tried to put them back in the water, but researcher Hannah Rosen says the deep water creatures swam right back to shore.
Ecuador's Tungurahua volcano shot lava a half a mile over its crater overnight, and it's blasting rocks and gas almost 2 miles from its sides. The renewed eruptions in central Ecuador began last week, and plumes of smoke and gas are rising as high as 3 miles over the 16,479-foot crater. Ecuador's emergency authority are preparing shelters and have already began evacuating people in villages close to the volcano.
Tsunami warning is in effect after a massive 7.5 magnitude earthquake hit off the southern coast of Alaska. Happened around 4 a.m. Eastern this morning. Officials urge anyone in the warning area to move inland and find higher ground.
Late this year, there's a new comet that's going to blaze across the sky. Experts say Ison is going to be dazzling. That is late November. The brilliance lighter, brighter than the full moon.
On the 18th, it will actually be streaking across the western sky. Could be briefly, at least for a while. Brighter than the full moon. Visible to the naked eye for sure, and possibly rivaling, we believe, the Great Comet of 1680, which you will find actually in ancient paintings. That's how cool this comet was. Painters of the time actually painted about this comet.
Back now with some incredible pictures that caught our eye today. A freak dust storm in Western Australia, a continent already dealing, as you may know, with terrible heat and wildfires on the run. An amazing sight as a huge storm scooped up the sand and then spit it out.
Experts warn that a massive solar storm is set to erupt right here, and the devastation could total as much as $2 trillion. How come folks like you are so worried about solar flares in 2013?
Well, so we know from watching the sun for hundreds of years, the sun goes through an 11-year cycle, being relatively quiet, very active and violent. 2013 is the peak of that 11-year cycle. So we know, almost like clockwork, every 11 years you go through a bad period, and each 11 years, as we have more technology, we have more satellites, we can depend more on our electrical infrastructure, we're more vulnerable.
If we get hit with a solar flare, what does that do to us? What does it do to our technology? What does it do to our civilization?
So it can lead to blackouts, it can overload your satellites, it can fry radio transmissions and GPS transmissions. That's happened on a small scale before.
Talk about the $1 trillion in damage. Does this keep you up at night, yes or no?
What keeps me up at night is that I know that sometime in my lifetime, and probably within, maybe within the next 10 or 20 years, there is going to be a countrywide blackout. And I don't, we're going to survive it, but imagine hospitals blacked out, transportation shut down, all your computers, all your smartphones shut down. So yeah, that does really worry me.
This is brand new video from the shore of Masonboro Island, shot from a boat, and you can see lots of dead fish. Garrett says the monitor shows the fish used up all the oxygen, and it suffocated them in less than an hour. Now, Garrett says it's rare to see a fish killed this large, but she wants you to know there's no risk to public health.
Now, when you go to the beach, this isn't what you expect to find. Take a look at this. Hundreds of dead fish covering the shore, and this is exactly what people in Pawleys Island woke up to this morning.
It's like really weird. Like, I don't know what could have caused it.
That's exactly how many people who live on Pawleys Island felt as they looked at the shoreline. Hundreds of dead menhaden fish stretching 1.5 miles long. And Pawleys Island isn't the first place this week to see the dead menhaden fish on their shore. Events like today's happen from time to time. Last year, an influx of starfish were found on the same beaches.
On another front, our weather remains in the news tonight.
The storm still stretches more than 900 long miles, and as it marched across the country, it brought high winds to Texas. And Missouri flashed flooding, and then winds that knocked down 50 train cars. Further north in Greene County, Indiana, dozens of homes were damaged or destroyed. Today's misery also reached Quinn County, Tennessee, where families who survived the tornado are counting their blessing. In Pennsylvania, blistering winds flipped this helicopter. An hour north of Atlanta, an amazing picture. The sky was falling.
We've got debris now flying to the left and center of this system.
The tornado was on the ground, churning through homes, office buildings, and factories with wind speeds more than 125 miles an hour.
This is rare, violent weather for January.
NASA has given an update on what they call PHAs, potentially hazardous asteroids. If Earth was struck by an asteroid 40 meters across, it would be similar to the impact of a 3-megaton nuclear bomb. So how many potentially hazardous asteroids are there? Okay, that's our number. 4,700 PHAs. But they've only found 20 to 30% of them, so it could be way, way higher. Anyway, the dinosaurs, I know that's controversial, but you know what I'm talking about. Are we living in an unprecedented time period of peace and prosperity?
A tsunami alert has just been issued in the South Pacific after a magnitude 8.0 earthquake struck just northeast of Australia in the Solomon Islands. There have since been a series of powerful aftershocks that have hit the area. There's no damage that we know to be associated with the quake itself, but now much of this region is under either a tsunami warning or a tsunami watch. The tsunami could impact, quote, more distant coasts.
A fiery show like you've never seen before. I know, I've never seen this before. A team of photographers capturing an incredible display in eastern Russia. 4 volcanoes they found were erupting at the same time, just over 100 miles apart. What are we seeing here?
Well, so this is probably the most volcanic area on Earth, is the Kamchatka region of Siberia. It's 3 different parts of the Earth's surface, three crustal plates are bashing together, and where these things collide, you get incredible geologic frenzy. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. 4 different volcanoes, 4 completely separate eruptions happening at the same time. Unprecedented.
The sky is not falling, but you'd be forgiven if the thought crossed your mind after 2 spectacular but apparently unrelated cosmic close encounters today within just hours of each other. This morning in a remote part of Russia, some thought the world was ending when a 10-ton meteor, 5 stories tall, hurtled to Earth and exploded, causing a lot of injuries and doing a lot of damage without actually hitting anything. Its fiery descent was captured in vivid detail by numerous cameras. And then this afternoon, there was a very close call with a massive asteroid that whizzed by just 17,000 miles from our planet. In celestial terms, that is a very near miss. What do scientists make of all this? It was all one big cosmic coincidence.
The video from Russia is incredible. A massive meteor traveling at 33,000 miles per hour, trailing a brilliant white contrail, hitting the atmosphere and exploding with the force of an atomic bomb. The shockwave over the town of Chelyabinsk damaged thousands of buildings, knocked down a factory wall, and blew out windows across the city in freezing temperatures.
Are you starstruck, and did you see it? The Bay Area dazzled by a dramatic and unexpected fireball in the sky. Good evening, and thanks for joining us on this Friday. I'm Raj Mathai.
And I'm Jessica Aguirre. The sky's brimming with action. First, an asteroid skims past Earth tonight, and now a meteor streaks across the Bay Area skies. I want to show you some dashcam uploaded video on YouTube that shows what appears to be the fireball as it crossed around 7:45. Now, the driver says he was headed southbound on 280 out of San Francisco. Turns out he wasn't the only Night Star viewer. We got calls from far as St. Helena to south as Gilroy.
Mother Nature causing trouble in northern Arizona as well tonight. A portion of US 89 dropping several feet during what they're calling a landslide that caused part of the road to buckle and cracks running across the width of that road.
Loud booms. Large trees in front of his house snapped in half. Booms.
Some bizarre noises.
Some strange noises heard around the world the last few weeks. There is now audio proof.
Mysterious booming noises. No one seems to know what is causing these weird booms. Not police, not scientists, not even the military. For the most part, have gone unexplained. The booms have shaken homes and startled neighbors.
These phenomena are not unique to Western New York. People all over the United States are hearing and feeling mysterious loud booms. Just since October, Howe has documented booms in 25 different regions across the country.
Many of the current reports have been that something is coming from the sky.
Some of these booms have been accompanied by huge bright flashes of light, including this one, captured by a security camera in Salem, Massachusetts on January 5th. What's causing the rest of the booms? Is something bigger going on that even local authorities and scientists aren't aware of?
We did check all the specific flight times. We did not have any aircraft in the air over that area at that time.
There was not an earthquake. There was not a mine collapse. I didn't even see any quarry blasting going on.
And we're unable to come up with any plausible explanation on what the noise was.
The geologists say it's not in the ground. The Air Force says it's not in the air. The astronomers say it's not from space. So we're running out of options.
just as this massive and deadly sinkhole was coming into view for the first time Monday. Incredible, just about 2 miles away, the earth caved yet again. Residents of Cedar Tree Lane now wondering this morning whether the 5 feet deep, 12 feet wide sinkhole could grow, endangering their homes.
We now turn to health news tonight. New and extremely dangerous super germs that are showing up in hospitals across this country, other healthcare facilities, prompting some strong and alarming language from the CDC. We get our report tonight from our chief medical editor, Dr. Nancy Snyder.
It's a silent threat lurking inside our nation's hospitals. A deadly class of superbugs that's nearly impossible to treat.
It's resistant to virtually all antibiotics. So when an individual gets this microbe and it invades the blood or invades tissue, curing them becomes very difficult.
There is another war taking place in the Middle East. This war has to do with rats. And we're not talking about just any rats. We're talking about rats as big as cats. These rats aren't just big in size, they're big in numbers as well. Millions of them roaming around Tehran. They've called out the Army sniper units in an effort to pick off one rodent at a time. There's an estimated 25 million rats. That's twice the people population. That's why the government is considering increasing the sniper units to 40.
Fish kills in parts of Baffin Bay are nothing new. In fact, back in 2007, a massive kill had scientists scrambling. This is video of that kill that was ultimately blamed on ammonia levels that starved the fish of oxygen. It's happening again, but ammonia levels aren't to blame this time. A group of citizens has been actually keeping track of these fish kills over the past couple of years. And although they are small, it's happening more often. These are pictures taken by residents of Black Drum that have been dying off, beaches littered with dead fish. And these are photos that have local scientists even more concerned. These are mountains of small clams that are the main source of food for Black Drum.
To us, it's just, I mean, this looks like the moon.
When Mark Korb woke up Sunday morning, he noticed the man-made pond on his Newcastle property didn't look the way it did when he went to bed.
This pond is just about full. It's about 2 feet down, and this pond that is now empty was at that same level as of Saturday night. So it came up to right about here.
Mr. Korb says a few years ago he drained this pond with a pump. He says that time it took him 7 days to make it look like this. The sinkhole emptied the pond much faster.
I would guess probably 4 or 5 hours
For this
to drain.
whole area to drain.
Yes.
Now he's trying to figure out what made the earth cave in on his property near Dutch Ravine.
Beachgoers down south who've had a gutful of dead fish washing up on our shores are taking matters into their own hands. They're collecting specimens for independent testing as the scale of the mystery continues to grow.
There are plenty more fish in the sea, but beachgoers fear far too many are washing up dead.
There was dead fish floating by in the water. Looked like they were pretty freshly dead as well.
Thousands of fish have littered the coast in recent weeks and locals are demanding answers.
Fish are starting to get bigger and bigger. We've started out with very small fish and now we're finding snapper and whiting and I've never seen that before in my life.
As the size of the fish continue to grow, so too does the area they're being found in. Beachgoers say they've seen dead fish wash up as far south as Sellicks Beach to here at Hallett Cove.
For 3/4 of an hour, a giant swarm of locusts about 15 kilometres long crosses Madagascar's National Route 7. This road is normally popular with tourists who come for the breathtaking views. But today they're observing a natural disaster, a plague of locusts which has already destroyed half of the island's crops.
They can create a lot of damage. They eat the pastures and then also the rice and the corn, which is about to be harvested.
According to experts, there are currently 100 swarms across Madagascar, made up of about 500 billion locusts. And they get through around 100,000 tons of vegetation every single day.
There's already not much rice. Not many people have more than 10 hectares of crops. So after the locusts, there's nothing left for our women and children to eat.
The UN is appealing for more than $41 million to eliminate a severe plague of locusts in Madagascar. Half of the money is needed by June to try to save the country's crop production. Around half of Madagascar is currently infested, with each swarm made up of billions of insects.
Earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 7 striking off the coast of northern Japan. The U.S. Geological Survey, which basically monitors earthquakes right around the world, has confirmed this. It's also been confirmed by Japan's own meteorological agency. This is off the coast of Japan's Hokkaido Island. It happened at 12:06 local time Friday. That's a little past 11 o'clock here in Beijing.
area. It's about 70 miles to the southwest of Chengdu, which is in Sichuan province. From what we know, the army are there at the moment. About 2,000 soldiers have been deployed to the area, and a general, the Chinese general who's been flying over the region in a helicopter, has told local reporters that he's seen a huge number, perhaps 50% of the houses in one area have been almost completely flattened. The houses in those rural areas are not particularly well built. The crucial moments at the moment as they try and access difficult areas and find out how many more people might be trapped. I would expect the death toll will rise.
An invisible but deadly threat has creeped into U.S. hospitals.
It's not getting better, actually, it's getting worse.
Dr. Anthony Fauci is talking about CRE, a so-called superbug that is resistant to nearly all antibiotics. The bacteria kills half of infected patients.
The superbug has become much more common, detecting 1 to 2 cases per week now on average.
The result tells you just how powerful the bacteria is.
Wherever you see a clearing, that's where the drug is working. So this drug right here has no zone. That means the organism's completely resistant to it.
A potentially deadly problem for patients infected with the superbug. That means even the most powerful antibiotics can't help them. So far, 42 states have reported cases of CRE.
The tornado hovers in the distance, threatening and dangerous, but the worst is yet to come. The twister touches down and tears through town after town. Tiles are ripped off roofs and debris flies in all directions. The tornado gathered speed across open farmland, leaving a trail of destruction. A whole season's crops destroyed. Locals were terrified by the sheer size of the storm. The tornado brought torrential rain and hailstones with it, causing havoc and making driving conditions extremely dangerous. Hundreds of homes were obliterated, entire buildings leveled, and cars overturned. Locals picked through the rubble in the aftermath of the storm in the hope of finding some of their belongings still intact. But for many, there was just nothing left.
It's pretty unbelievable for this time of year. Yesterday, where we're at was almost close to 100 degrees, 3% relative humidity, something we don't usually see along the coast, this early, anytime really. It's made its run. It's not going to go much further west. It can't. So it's about as far as it's going to go this way. We want to make sure that the residents, we do what we can do to make sure that they're not inconvenienced. If we can stop the power poles from burning, that's what we're going to do out here.
I want to save my home, and I've invested a lot in this house and a lot of time and memories, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm here until the end, whatever it takes.
And now to a neighborhood that is slowly being swallowed by the earth. An entire subdivision where the homes are crumbling. Neighbors being told to pack up and leave.
In March, everything was fine, and everything is gone now.
This morning, residents and officials in one Northern California town are mystified, desperately trying to figure out what's caused 7 homes to be swallowed up by the earth.
It has grown, substantially from the time I saw it earlier this week to the present. So things are still happening.
What started as small cracks in the ground gradually opened into small canyons.
All the cracks in the roadway seem to have gotten bigger.
Quickly engulfing the Lake County homes and stripping some down to the core. Now the entire community of 29 homes is at risk of collapsing.
It's metastasizing like cancer, and it's spreading out. There's new cracks showing up in areas of the subdivision that weren't affected before.
Tornado emergency is now coming. We do have a tornado emergency
for this storm that is moving into more right now. This is a tornado emergency. This is higher than a tornado warning. This is the most significant of all warnings.
What we're looking at is tragically the biggest destructive tornado in the history of the world, because this destruction is dwarfing May 3rd, which was a $1.2 billion damage storm with 8,000 homes and 1,000 plus apartment complexes damaged or destroyed. This one is, destruction-wise, is 2 to 3 times the magnitude of May 3rd, 1999. So this is the worst tornado damage-wise in the history of the world.
This one went from a small rope to something I've never seen before. It went from a small tornado to a mile wide. It cut the city in half. It's the worst thing that I've seen in my entire life in the state of Oklahoma. It's just truly tragic.
The numbers of this event are becoming even more staggering. 33,000 people affected, 12 to 13,000 homes impacted. Property damage is $1.5 to $2 billion. Obviously, this is a significant event, and it's one that's going to take us a while to address.